Have you ever woke up, looked in the mirror, and thought, who the heck is that? Yeah, that's you. That's the magnificent, messy, misunderstood miracle you have been avoiding all this time. You have spent years trying to be the version of yourself that makes everyone else comfortable, when in reality, you were born to make some noise. Self-love isn't vanity, it's sanity. And it starts right here, right now. You spend your entire life with yourself. From your first breath to your final sigh, you are your only constant companion. Yet, most people treat themselves like a stranger, polite at best, cruel at worst. Think about it, you wouldn't spend a lifetime with someone who insults you every day, but you do it to yourself all the time. We chase love from others because we have forgotten how to give it to ourselves. We become addicted to external validation, likes, hearts, comments. But when the screen turns off, who's left? You. And that's who needs your attention most. Self-love is not about ego, it's about maintenance. It's brushing your emotional teeth, feeding your mental health, and checking in with your soul. You wouldn't run a car forever without an oil change, right? Yet we do it to our minds and wonder why we break down on the highway of life. Treat yourself like someone worth staying with. When you fail, talk to yourself like you would to your best friend, not your worst critic. You are not your mistakes, you are the lessons that come from them. When you start nurturing that relationship with yourself, everything else starts aligning. People treat you the way you treat yourself. Energy doesn't lie. Respect yourself, and the world adjusts its tone. Your relationship with yourself sets the tone for every other relationship you have. If you treat yourself like a doormat, you will attract people who wipe their feet. But if you carry yourself like a home, you will draw on those who respect your walls and cherish your warmth. Every morning, before the world rushes in with its chaos and demands, remind yourself, I'm with me. And that's a damn good thing. We have turned our self-esteem into a social media democracy. We wait for someone else to click a button before we feel valuable. That's madness. You don't need an applause meter to prove your existence. People's opinions are not your mirror, they are just their projections. You can't expect people to see your worth when they are still squinting through the fog of their own insecurities. Their judgment says more about their wounds than your worth. When you live for approval, you die from rejection. And you will never win the game of public validation because the rules keep changing. One day they love you, the next they scroll past you. That's not stability, that's chaos in disguise. Your worth is not a vote, it's a birthright. You were valuable the moment you existed. You don't have to prove that you are enough. You just have to remember that you already are. When someone criticizes you, smile and thank them silently for reminding you to stay grounded. You are not for everyone, and that's beautiful. Even the sun doesn't shine for every planet. The moment you stop needing everyone to understand you is the moment you become free. Freedom isn't about escaping others. It's about escaping your own need to please them. Stop auditioning for roles in other people's stories. You are the star of your own show. We have been conditioned to believe that putting ourselves first is wrong. That if we don't pour into everyone else before we even take a sip, we're selfish. But that's a lie dressed as virtue. Loving yourself isn't about arrogance, it's about alignment. It's about standing tall in your truth without apologizing for it. You can't give the world your best if you are constantly running on empty, pretending you are fine when you are quietly breaking inside. Self-love isn't loud, it's steady. It's the quiet decision to say no when your body is screaming for rest. It's choosing solitude over noise, peace over people pleasing. It's not about selfies or slogans, it's about boundaries. Real, unshakable boundaries that protect your time, your energy, and your sanity. Because when you stop guarding your peace, you start bleeding from every open wound that someone else caused, and you call it compassion. That's not love, that's slow self-destruction. When you respect yourself, you start to see how much you have tolerated in the name of kindness. You start to realize that your softness doesn't mean weakness. It means power under control. It means you can be gentle without being a doormat. Self-love teaches you to stop confusing sacrifice with virtue. You can help others without setting yourself on fire for warmth they don't appreciate. That's what self-respect looks like in motion. Kindness with a backbone. There will be people who don't like your glow up. They will call you selfish because your boundaries inconvenience them. They will label your peace as distance, your quiet as arrogance, your healing as rebellion. Let them talk. People who benefit from your exhaustion will always resent your recovery. You don't need their understanding, you need your alignment. Because when you start choosing yourself, you stop begging for love from people who never learned how to give it. Self-love means you no longer settle for crumbs when you know you deserve the whole meal. It's realizing that bare minimum isn't affection. It's neglect dressed up as effort. You learn to walk away, not because you stopped caring, but because you started caring too much for yourself to keep shrinking for anyone else. You become the protector of your own energy, the guardian of your own peace, and the designer of your own joy. And when you start showing up for yourself like that, everything shifts. The world begins to respond to your new vibration. The people who were meant to walk with you will adjust their pace, and the ones who were only comfortable with your silence will fall away. You stop chasing acceptance because you have already accepted yourself. That's when your power starts to move differently. Calm, grounded, undeniable. So love yourself enough to take up space. Love yourself enough to say no without guilt and yes without fear. Love yourself enough to rest, to heal, to grow. Because every act of self-respect ripples into the universe like a declaration. I'm here. I matter. And I will no longer abandon myself to be loved by someone else. You can't talk about love without talking about forgiveness, because they are two sides of the same heartbeat. You can't claim to love yourself if you are still holding a grudge against the person you used to be. Most people think forgiveness is about someone else, about letting the person who hurt them off the hook. But no one hurts you more consistently than your own memory. You replay the mistakes, the failures, the words you wish you'd never said, and every time you hit play, you tear open a wound that was trying to close. Forgiveness starts when you look at your past self, the one who didn't know better, the one who stumbled, the one who kept saying yes when they should have said no, and say, I understand you. I forgive you. That's real courage. Because it's easy to love yourself when you are shining. It's a whole different game to love yourself when you are ashamed. But that's where healing lives, not in perfection, but in compassion. We think punishment equals accountability. We think beating ourselves up somehow proves we have learned our lesson. But self-punishment isn't growth, it's stagnation. It's like trying to drive with the handbrake on. You are moving, but you are burning out your engine. The truth is, you can't evolve if you are chained to who you used to be. Forgiveness doesn't erase responsibility, it transforms it into wisdom. It turns, I messed up, into, I grew up. And let's be honest, most of the pain we carry isn't even happening anymore. It's over, it's done. But our minds keep hitting rewind like we're addicted to the ache. We rehearse old mistakes like they are part of our identity. You are not what happened to you. You are what you choose to do next. Forgiveness is the reset button that gives you back the present moment. It's the deep breath after the storm. It's the decision to stop letting yesterday bully today. When you forgive yourself, your body feels it. Your shoulders drop. Your jaw unclenches. Your breath gets deeper. Because shame lives in the body. It sits in your chest, your stomach, your sleep. Forgiveness is like opening a window in a room that's been closed for years. Fresh air rushes in. Light pours through. Suddenly, the space feels alive again, and so do you. And you will notice, once you forgive yourself, the world softens. People stop feeling like enemies. You begin to see everyone else as someone doing their best with what they have got, just like you. Forgiveness ripples outward. It turns bitterness into empathy, walls into bridges. It doesn't mean you forget what happened. It means you remember without bleeding. So every time your mind brings up that old version of you, the one you wish you could erase, don't turn away. Look them in the eyes, smile, thank them. They were the ones who got you here. They survived the storm so you could stand in the sun. And that's what forgiveness really is. Loving yourself through the timeline of your own becoming, without conditions, without shame, without pause. From the moment we're born, we're taught to look outside ourselves for approval. We wait for grades, gold stars, applause, likes, promotions, all little tokens that tell us we're doing okay. But the problem with living for permission is that it turns you into a performer instead of a person. You end up clapping for yourself only when someone else starts clapping first. And that's not pride, that's dependency dressed in confidence. You don't need the world to stamp your worth before you start living like you matter. The world's opinion changes with the weather. One day you are the hero, the next you are a headline. So stop waiting for validation to start being proud. You were already enough before anyone ever noticed you. Your story doesn't need to be spectacular to be worthy. It just needs to be yours. Pride begins the moment you stop apologizing for existing. Somewhere along the way, you learned that humility means dimming your light. You learned to make yourself small so others wouldn't feel insecure standing next to you. You learned to hide your victories because someone else was still struggling. But real humility isn't pretending you are less. It's knowing you are powerful and choosing to use that power kindly. You can be proud without being arrogant, and you can shine without casting a shadow on anyone else. You have to understand, no one else can feel pride for you. They can celebrate you, sure, but they can't be you. They don't know the nights you cried quietly, the mornings you still showed up, the times you almost quit but didn't. They didn't fight your battles, wear your scars, or carry your doubts. So how could they possibly be the judge of when you are allowed to feel proud? That right belongs only to you. Being proud isn't about pretending to have it all figured out. It's about honoring the fact that you are still standing. It's saying, I'm not perfect, but I'm progressing. It's not waiting until you have reached the mountaintop before you celebrate. It's dancing halfway up the trail, dirty shoes and all. Because pride isn't the prize at the end. It's the fuel that keeps you climbing when nobody's watching. And you know what happens when you start owning your pride? You inspire others to do the same. You permit people to celebrate their weirdness, their resilience, their growth. You create a ripple effect of self-acceptance just by standing in your truth. Pride is contagious, the good kind, the kind that heals, the kind that says, if I can love where I am, maybe you can too. So stop waiting for someone to hand you a certificate that says, congratulations, you are finally enough. Stand in your story, flaws and all. Walk like you belong here, because you do. You have earned the right to be proud simply by surviving everything that tried to break you. And every time you lift your head a little higher, every time you refuse to shrink, the universe nods in agreement and whispers, finally, they see what I've seen all along. We have been sold this idea that happiness is a destination, some glittering finish line where everything finally makes sense. But that's a trap. Happiness isn't hiding somewhere out there waiting for you to discover it. It's something you construct moment by moment out of the pieces of your own reality. It's not a gift, it's a craft. You don't stumble into happiness, you build it, and the foundation is acceptance. Because if you can't accept where you are, nothing you chase will ever feel like enough. We think happiness comes after we fix everything. After the job, after the relationship, after the body, after the apology. But the truth is, life doesn't pause while we perfect it. There's no magical point where the chaos clears and suddenly the music starts playing. Happiness happens in the middle of the mess. It's choosing to breathe when your plans collapse. It's smiling even when you are still patching the holes. Acceptance doesn't mean you stop improving. It means you stop waiting to live until everything looks Instagram ready. Acceptance is the art of saying, this is where I am and that's okay. Not, this is where I'll stay, but this is where I'll start. It's not resignation, it's recognition. It's acknowledging your flaws, your fears, your failures, and still showing up anyway. When you stop fighting the present moment, you free up all the energy you were wasting on resistance. And that energy becomes fuel, the kind that builds peace brick by brick instead of chasing it in circles. We mistake happiness for excitement, for the high of achievement, for those quick dopamine hits that feel like joy but fade by morning. Real happiness is quieter. It's not the fireworks, it's the sunrise. It's the kind of peace that comes when you are no longer trying to outrun yourself. When you start accepting life for what it is, the noise fades, the pressure eases, and suddenly you realize that peace wasn't missing. You just weren't still enough to feel it. Acceptance isn't glamorous. It's not the kind of thing you can post about. It's private work. It's sitting with your emotions instead of distracting yourself from them. It's being honest about your pain without letting it define you. It's understanding that your worth doesn't decrease just because life got heavy. Every time you choose to accept instead of resist, you lay another brick in the foundation of genuine happiness, the kind that doesn't crumble under disappointment. And sometimes acceptance feels like defeat at first, because it means admitting that you can't control everything, that some doors are meant to stay closed. But the more you practice it, the more you see that surrender isn't losing, it's aligning. It's realizing that the flow of life is wiser than your grip on it. You stop forcing outcomes and start trusting timing. You stop chasing what's leaving and start tending to what's growing. That's when happiness becomes sustainable, because it's no longer built on conditions. So happiness isn't found in a paycheck, a person, or a perfect day. It's built in small, honest moments. When you choose gratitude over comparison, when you give yourself grace for not being there yet, when you stop waiting for someday and start living today. Happiness isn't something that happens to you. It's something you create, one breath, one choice, one act of acceptance at a time. We live in a world obsessed with trophies, followers, titles, cars, money, applause. It's like everyone's sprinting toward a finish line that keeps moving. But here's the thing, you can win the race, stand on the podium, hold the medal, and still feel empty inside. Success looks shiny from the outside, but without self-love, it's hollow. It echoes. You can hear the applause, but not feel it. Because success without peace is just performance, and performance fades the moment the curtain drops. We're taught that success will fix what's broken inside of us. That if we just achieve enough, buy enough, impress enough, the cracks will disappear. But success doesn't heal insecurity, it amplifies it. If you don't love yourself, success becomes another addiction, a louder way to drown out the silence inside. You start chasing goals not out of passion, but out of fear. Fear of being irrelevant, fear of being forgotten, fear of not being enough. And no amount of money can fill that kind of void. Self-love changes the meaning of success. When you love yourself, success stops being about being better than and starts being about being true to. You stop measuring your worth by comparison charts and start measuring it by alignment, by how deeply your actions match your values. You start realizing that peace is the ultimate luxury and no title can buy it. Success becomes less about proving and more about expressing, not a mask, but a mirror. There's a difference between achievement and fulfillment. Achievement is external. It's what people can see. Fulfillment is internal. It's what only you can feel. You can climb the highest ladder and realize it's leaning against the wrong wall. You can hit every goal on your list and still lie awake at night asking, why doesn't it feel like enough? Because success without self-love doesn't feed you. It just feeds your image, and your image can't hug you back. When you love yourself, your success starts to feel different. You are no longer trying to prove your worth. You are just expressing it. You celebrate your wins without fear of losing your place, and you handle your failures without collapsing into shame. You move with confidence, not arrogance, because you are no longer desperate for approval. You become unstoppable not because you are trying to win, but because you are finally whole. But when self-love is missing, success becomes noise, loud, exhausting, relentless noise. The praise feels temporary. The recognition feels fake. You keep turning up the volume, hoping the music will drown out the ache. But deep down, you know it's not working. You have built a castle around your insecurities, and every compliment becomes another brick. Until one day, you realize you are trapped inside your own achievement, surrounded by noise that never meant anything. The real success, the one that lasts, comes when you can stand still in a quiet room, with no audience, no applause, no spotlight, and still feel proud of who you are. That's when you know you have built something real. Because the sound of self-love is silence, peaceful, grounding silence that doesn't need to be loud to be powerful. That's the kind of success that doesn't fade when the lights go out. Somewhere along the way, we were taught to treat our flaws like stains, things to be hidden, scrubbed out, corrected until we look polished enough to be accepted. But those so-called imperfections, they are not evidence that you are broken. They are proof that you are real. They are the brushstrokes that make you unique in a world full of copies. If you spend your life sanding down every rough edge, you will erase the very texture that makes you human. Perfection is sterile. It doesn't breathe. It doesn't connect. It's your cracks that let other people see themselves in you. We have been conditioned to perform strength instead of live honestly. We post our highlight reels, filter our faces, rehearse our emotions until we sound socially acceptable. But deep down, everyone's messy. Everyone's scared. Everyone's carrying something heavy behind their smile. The people who look flawless are just better at hiding it. The truth is, your flaws make you relatable. They remind others and yourself that being human isn't about being perfect. It's about being present. Your flaws are not failures, they are data. They tell you where you have been, what you have survived, what still hurts, what still matters. The scar isn't the story of pain, it's the story of healing. The insecurity isn't proof that you are weak, it's proof that you still care. When you learn to see your flaws as teachers instead of punishments, everything changes. You stop hating the parts of you that hurt and start listening to what they are trying to say. Perfection is an illusion built by people terrified of vulnerability. And vulnerability, that's where the power is. When you let people see your flaws, the tremble in your voice, the doubt in your eyes, the bruise on your ego, you are permitting them to do the same. You break the spell of comparison and create a connection instead. Because people don't fall in love with your perfection, they fall in love with your honesty. Your humanity is the most magnetic thing you own. Every flaw you have carries a story, not of defeat, but of resilience. The mistake taught you something. The heartbreak opened you. The failure humbled you. You learned empathy because you have fallen. You learned patience because you have waited. You learned courage because you were scared and did it anyway. Those aren't flaws. They are your emotional fingerprints, carved by experience, impossible to replicate, impossible to fake. When you try to hide your flaws, you build walls. You start living in fear, fear of being found out, fear of being rejected, fear of being imperfect. But when you embrace them, those walls turn into doors. You become free. Because no one can use against you what you have already accepted about yourself. The moment you own your flaws, they lose their power to shame you. They stop being weaknesses and start becoming wisdom. Your flaws are evidence that you have lived, that you have tried, failed, loved, lost, and still kept going. They are reminders that you are not a product, you are a process. And that process is messy, unpredictable, and breathtakingly beautiful. The rough edges, the cracks, the contradictions, that's where the soul lives. That's where authenticity breathes. Because to be human is to be unfinished. And that's exactly what makes you extraordinary. Falling is part of being alive. Everyone falls, the strong, the wise, the brave, the ones who look like they have got it all figured out. The difference between the people who grow and the people who crumble isn't how often they fall. It's how they talk to themselves when they do. Most of us don't fall because of failure. We fall because of the weight of our own judgment afterward. The mistake doesn't break us. The shame does. It's not the stumble that hurts. It's the voice inside that says, "See, you are still not enough." We have all got that inner critic, that relentless commentator who thinks humiliation equals motivation. It tells you that being hard on yourself is how you will improve, how you will stay sharp, how you will never make the same mistake twice. But that's a lie. You don't grow through abuse. You grow through care. You wouldn't scream at a child for falling while learning to walk. So why do you scream at yourself for being human? Compassion isn't weakness. It's the soil that growth needs to take root in. When you meet your failures with gentleness, something shifts. You stop identifying with the fall and start learning from it. You realize you can fall without defining yourself by it. Compassion doesn't erase accountability. It makes accountability possible. Because when you are not drowning in self-hate, you actually have the clarity to reflect, to adjust, to do better next time. Criticism keeps you stuck in punishment. Compassion permits you to evolve. The truth is, the world already throws enough judgment at you. It doesn't need you to join in. Every time you fall, the world's ready to point fingers, but you can choose to be your own refuge. You can choose to say, yeah, I fell, but I'm still here, still learning, still worthy. That's the kind of voice that heals. That's the voice that lets you rise instead of retreat. Because compassion doesn't just soften you, it strengthens you from the inside out. Criticism screams, you are not there yet. Compassion whispers, look how far you have come. And that whisper is powerful. It rewires your entire system. Your nervous system starts to trust you again. Your mind stops treating you like the enemy. You start to believe that you can make mistakes without being destroyed by them. That belief, that safety within yourself, is what creates resilience. You stop walking on eggshells around your own emotions. You become unshakable. Every time you fall, you have a choice to attack yourself or to embrace yourself, to feed the fear or fuel the faith. The fall is temporary, but the voice you use in that moment echoes long after. Be the kind of person who catches themselves kindly. Be the kind of person who says, I can fall and still be lovable. I can fail and still be enough. That's not delusion. That's emotional maturity. That's how you turn pain into power. The ones who go the distance aren't the ones who never fall. They are the ones who fall and forgive themselves fast They know self-compassion isn't an escape from responsibility. It's the courage to face it without self-destruction. Every fall can be a lesson, but only if you are kind enough to listen. Because when you meet yourself with compassion in the dark, you don't just rise again. You rise different. You rise wiser. You rise free. If you spoke to your friends the way you speak to yourself, how many of them would still pick up the phone? Think about that. Most of us are fluent in self-criticism and barely conversational in self-compassion. We tear ourselves apart over the smallest mistakes, replay awkward moments like they are crimes, and call it motivation. But that voice in your head isn't helping you improve. It's slowly convincing you that you will never be good enough. And if you keep talking to yourself like you are the enemy, you will eventually believe it. The way you speak to yourself becomes the environment you live in. If your inner dialogue is hostile, you are walking through life barefoot on broken glass. Everything hurts a little more. Every challenge feels heavier. Every dream feels further away. But when you shift that inner tone, when you start speaking to yourself like you matter, everything softens. You start to breathe again. You start to heal. You start to feel at home inside your own mind. Most people think being kind to yourself means letting yourself off the hook, but it's the opposite. When you talk to yourself with love, you hold yourself accountable in a way that actually works. You don't shame yourself into change. You encourage yourself into growth. You don't say, "You are worthless." You say, "You made a mistake, but you are learning." That's how real transformation happens, not through fear, but through faith. Fear can push you, but love pulls you forward. Start paying attention to your self-talk. That quiet narration running in the background shapes your entire reality. If your thoughts are constantly tearing you down, you will stop taking risks. You will stop showing up. You will live small because your inner world is loud with judgment. But when your voice becomes your ally, you start expanding. You start walking taller, speaking clearer, trying again even when you are scared. Because deep down, you know you've got your own back. It's strange how easily we offer comfort to others and yet deny it to ourselves. A friend messes up and you say, "It's okay, everyone makes mistakes." You mess up and you say, "How could you be so stupid? Why the double standard?" You deserve the same tenderness you give. You don't need to earn your own kindness. It's not a prize, it's a right. You are not a project to fix. You are a person to care for. Talk to yourself accordingly. Your words are powerful. Every thought you repeat becomes a belief. Every belief you reinforce becomes behavior. When you talk to yourself like someone you love, you are rewiring your brain to recognize safety, to welcome peace, to expect better. It's like tending a garden. You can't grow anything beautiful if you keep poisoning the soil with self-hate. Replace "I can't" with "I'm learning." Replace "I'm a failure" with "I'm figuring it out." Speak to yourself like you matter, because you do. You become unstoppable when your inner voice becomes your cheerleader instead of your critic. The world outside can doubt you, challenge you, misunderstand you, but if the voice inside still believes in you, you will keep standing. That voice is your anchor. It's your weapon. It's your sanctuary. The goal isn't to silence your doubts. It's to make sure your compassion speaks louder than your fear. Because when you finally talk to yourself like someone you truly care about, you stop waiting for someone else to do it for you. Everyone talks about the glow up like it's a new haircut, a six-pack, or a wardrobe overhaul. But the truth is, the real glow up has nothing to do with mirrors. It's not the makeup, the clothes, or the perfect lighting. It's what happens when you finally clean out the emotional clutter you have been carrying around for years. When you start healing instead of hiding. When you stop needing validation and start permitting yourself. That's the kind of transformation that doesn't fade when the filters do. You can upgrade everything on the outside and still feel small inside. You can hit the gym, fix your diet, change your style. But if your mind is still at war with itself, the glow won't stick. Because confidence isn't about appearance, it's about energy. It's about walking into a room and radiating peace instead of panic. It's about knowing who you are without needing everyone else to agree with you. That's the kind of glow that can't be faked. It comes from alignment, not approval. The glow up starts the day you stop chasing perfection and start choosing presence. When you stop trying to impress people who don't even know themselves. When you stop comparing your behind the scenes to someone else's highlight reel. You start realizing that real beauty is honesty, being at peace with your reflection because you know the person behind it has been through storms and still stands tall. That's not vanity. That's victory. There's a different kind of light that comes from someone who's done the inner work. You can see it in their eyes, calm, grounded, unbothered. It's not arrogance. It's self-awareness. It's the quiet confidence of someone who no longer needs to prove their worth because they have already met it within. You can't Photoshop that kind of glow. You can't buy it and you can't fake it. It's earned one truth, one boundary, one healed wound at a time. The inside glow up is when you stop letting insecurity make your decisions. When you stop settling for people who dim your light. When you finally stop apologizing for your energy, your boundaries, your standards. That's when your posture changes. That's when your laugh becomes freer. That's when people start saying, "You look different," but they can't explain why. Because it's not the outside they are seeing, it's the peace radiating through the cracks that used to hurt. You start glowing when you stop performing, when you stop pretending to be what others expect and finally become who you are. When you stop hustling for love and start giving it to yourself first. That's when your whole vibe changes. The way you walk, the way you speak, the way you enter a room, it all shifts. Because nothing shines brighter than authenticity. When your soul is aligned with your actions, it shows. You don't even have to say a word. The real glow up is emotional freedom. It's when you can look in the mirror without flinching. When you can be alone without feeling lonely. When you can face your past without hating your reflection. It's not about being flawless. It's about being fearless in your flaws. It's not about being admired. It's about being at peace. The outside glow might get attention, but the inside glow gets respect. That's the transformation that turns pain into power and silence into light. That voice inside your head, the one that says, "You are not enough. You are too much. Who do you think you are?" It's loud, isn't it? It sneaks in when you are about to take a risk, start something new, or finally stand up for yourself. It doesn't yell because it's right. It yells because it's scared. It's the echo of every doubt, every rejection, every no you have ever internalized. But here's the truth. You can't wait for that voice to go quiet before you move. You have to move with it. Smile at it. Dance with it. Keep going while it screams, because courage isn't silence. It's movement in the middle of the noise. The inner critic always shows up right before a breakthrough. It's like a final test before you step into something greater. That's its job, to protect you from failure, even if it means keeping you stuck. It wants safety, not success. But growth doesn't happen in comfort zones. So when that voice starts getting louder, that's your sign that you are on the edge of something important. Don't back away. Don't freeze. Smile, because it means you are alive, evolving, daring to try. The moment you start dancing despite the noise, something powerful happens. The critic starts losing control because you are not fighting it anymore. You are flowing with it. You are saying, "Yeah, I hear you, but you don't get to drive." You stop trying to silence it and start outshining it. Every step you take while that voice doubts you is a declaration. I'm not ruled by fear anymore. That's freedom, not the absence of fear, but the refusal to obey it. We have been taught to wait until we're confident before we act, but confidence doesn't come first. Courage does. Confidence is what you get after you have danced through enough noise to realize it never killed you. Every time you push forward while your critic is screaming, you prove to yourself that you can handle it. You start to trust your rhythm. You start to realize the voice doesn't define you. It's just a background track you forgot to turn down. Your inner critic isn't evil. It's just outdated. It was built in moments when you needed protection, when failure felt fatal, when being wrong meant being unloved. But now you are older, stronger, wiser. You can thank that voice for trying to help and still choose to move without letting it lead. The dance isn't about perfection. It's about defiance. It's about saying, "I can be imperfect and still worthy. I can be afraid and still show up." That's what breaks the spell. When that voice gets louder, turn up the music of your purpose. Move louder. Laugh louder. Love louder. Let your joy drown out the judgment. Let your passion take up more space than your fear. The critic can scream all it wants. It can't touch the person who refuses to stop moving. You are not here to please that voice. You are here to outgrow it. Keep dancing like your freedom depends on it, because it does. Every time you choose to move instead of freeze, you reclaim your power. Every smile in the face of doubt is an act of rebellion. Every step you take while your critic whispers failure is a step deeper into self-trust. You learn that you don't have to earn your right to exist, to express, to create. You learn that the voice might never disappear, but you have learned its rhythm, and you have learned how to dance right through it.